All right, good morning, everyone. A little bit of an emergency discussion here, guys. We're going to be adding to the chat. Today, we were going to be talking about team building with John. Everyone's been requesting John join us here. So welcome back, John. And as usual, Ryan and Emma, if you have any questions along the way, post them in the YouTube chat log. Emma monitors those and she posts them on the screen. Anything important along the way, we're going to be answering. And lucky winner, at some point, if you have some sort of engaging content question, we'll win a $50,000 account from maventrading.com. You can check out challenges there if you are interested in getting funded with anywhere from $2,000 to $100,000 account. Now, the important question here today is there going to be a recession coming?
Oh, looks like we lost Hunter. Well, is there going to be a recession coming? I think we're already in one. I know Hunter would say technically we're not, but I think we are.
I've just had, did we just chop up everything there? Okay.
Oh, you're back.
Okay, perfect. Did that that might have glitched out there for a second. So let's say that again. If you're not familiar with this website, it is the predicted rate cuts or hikes that the Fed does, and the Fed is a FOMC meeting it's 8 times per year, and this is the first time that they are predicting a rate cut, right? And if you're not, okay, Ryan's jumping back in here. Perfect. Good to see you again, Ryan. If you're not familiar with rate hikes and rate cuts, basically, if you've got a lower interest rate, it's going to stimulate the economy, and it's going to allow people to take out loans better. Banks give out more loans and more spending to be had, right? Ultimately, that then inflates prices, and more money printing is going on, and inflation hits all-time highs if this happens in a poorly managed manner. Okay, in the opposite scenario, when rates are high, less money can be distributed among the community and civilization, and banks and everything, and people hold on to their wealth, right? So we see recessions happen and depressions happen. So that being said, we have a 60% chance that we're going to have a strong rate cut. Now, what does that mean? If you're looking at the FOMC over the history of time here, we see that we haven't had a rate cut in a very long time, guys. We haven't had a rate cut since the COVID sort of, a panic, right? And that is concerning because the last time that we've had rates this high and then we started cutting, if we look through history here, we see that we had rates at 5.5 at the peak, and we're starting to cut now. So let's look back in history when the 2 other times in this century, this millennia, have had rate cuts of this significance. Well, 2007 and 2000. Okay, guys, this is a really, really big cause for concern because in the 2000 rate cuts, we've seen a crash in the markets as well, but it was quite insignificant compared to the previous ones, and it's very much correlated to the height of the amplitude of the current rates. So now that we're at 5.5 and we are cutting again, let's look at the charts and just see what that means. Okay. The NASDAQ, we had a pullback. When was the pullback? Well, we started cutting rates mid 2000s, right? And we were still able to have another year roughly of upward movement because we started printing money. Okay. We started printing money. The Fed started printing more money so they could stimulate even more of the economy because people have been spending frivolously, and then we need more money to be going around. So it really jacks up inflation. So the more money that's printed, the more inflation that's going to happen. And then ultimately, when inflation hits all-time highs, then we see later a pullback and a sort of a crash, and that's going to be a little bit of a recession back in 2021. Now, that wasn't a huge deal. If we're looking back to the 2007 crash, a similar thing happened 2007, and if we compare to the rate cuts were August of 2007, right? Let's go back to sorry. And we see that the market started crashing about 2 to 3 months after the rate cuts started. If you go back and you look at 2000 as well, a similar thing happened. So you're looking at about a 3 to 6 month time after the rate cuts start. After the rate cuts start. So if we start cutting rates today, or tomorrow rather, which it does look like we are going to be doing, because there is 100% chance that they're going to cut rates and a 60% chance that they're going to significantly cut rates, right? What does this mean? Once again, guys, it means that it's going to stimulate the economy, okay? That's going to create more lending, and then ultimately they're going to have to start printing money again, and hyperinflation is going to take place. Ultimately, every single time that this happens and the bond yields are reverted, right, which is another topic that we can discuss on another day. We go T10 year treasury bonds. There we go. T10 year 2. There we go. That's the one. Now, this is another significant factor placing into our analysis on a pending recession. If you compare the same sort of thing, once again, 2000, we have a reverting bond yield after being in a inversion, right? So it is very rare. So if you guys are looking at this and you're trying to understand what this means, this is the 10-year over the 2-year, right? So naturally, you're going to want a better rate on your 10-year bond investments. But when they invert, that means that there is something wrong, basically, to put it simply. So I don't have to explain this too much detail. But when they revert, once again, we see a recession 100% of the time. If you look through history, 81, 1990 when there's reverted, 2001, 2007, 19, right? And once again, happening once again. So a very high probability you're going to see a recession coming into the following year. Guys, that is the analysis for today's FOMC. Let's look at Bitcoin here really quickly, and then we can discuss some lighter topics. Bitcoin, guys, everyone is hyped about the pumps going on here today and this week. But the monthly candles, once again, it is not the time to be in any markets because of the FOMC tomorrow. It is very, very high risk. The monthly candles showing previous month of a loss of that level. The traditional markets are a little bit stronger. But Bitcoin is a little bit more of a reserved asset that people want to not risk as much on. So now that there is pending doom of a recession, people are definitely getting out of crypto and holding more traditional assets. Gold is going to do well. Very, very clear on that. Okay, gold is going to do super, super well. Guys, let's jump back to our beautiful faces. John, good to see you again. Today, we're discussing team building. Let me get my notes out here.
Good to see you too, man.
Yeah.
Good to see you all.
Well, everyone has been requesting that you come back here. And next week, we're going to be jumping probably back with Seb, discussing more about the trading style. But we wanted to get something going on with John here that he can specialize in. And he is an expert in running a team, right, guys? So a very, very important when you're just developing some sort of passion, long-term project, something along those lines, building even just your own trading team. We're going to discuss here really quick. So, John, I'm going to let you take over talking here because I've been going on a bit of a rant. Briefly give us a summary of what you'd be looking for in teammates when you want to devise a team that is going to be productive.
Sure. And I find that funny that you said that I'm an expert at running teams, because I had a note in my notes about talking about experts, and that'll come up in a second here. So for a team member, first of all, the key word there is team. You have to look for a team player. That is first and foremost. It doesn't matter what skills you have. If they are not a team player, then they can't be part of the team. And what that means is non-abrasive attitude. So somewhat able to get along with. Reliability. They're going to show up every day. If there's an emergency, they will be there to have your back. And lastly, predictability. So you know that they're going to kind of pump out the same sort of work or the same sort of attitude or the same sort of style every single day within a certain range. Once we covered those bases, then we can go into expertise, and expertise including humbleness. And what I mean by that is true experts rarely say that they're experts. They're always going to be humble in some way. They're always going to say, well, I mean, that there's always more to learn, and it's true. True experts rarely say that they are. And one thing that I've realized is that in life, you can be good at a lot of things. You can be great at a few things, but you could only become a quote unquote expert or a master at one or two things throughout your lifetime. So always keep that in mind when you're, when you're putting your feet into many different pools, that mastery only comes into one or two different pools.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, sure. To branch off of that, at Maven, we really developed a team of experts in different fields, right? John, you originally started as the tech sort of side. Ryan is the finance sort of side. Emma's the marketing. Seb is the expert at managing people, right? And, the community and whatnot on a very heartful sort of manner, right? And myself, more of a trading style background, right? So we all kind of have our own expertise, as John was saying. And when you're developing a team, what's really, really important, and what we did, is to have people that are experts in each individual field and not have too much overlap, because then you're going to have a lot of butting heads when two people are doing the exact same role. It's going to be, the idea is, there's no two CEOs of a company. It doesn't make sense. There needs to be somebody making a decision ultimately, right? So when we developed our team, we have somebody that's ahead of each department. And this is a really common practice in company management. And when it comes down to maybe developing your own team for trading, you might want to take these same practices into your trading world. If there is somebody who is really, really good at the traditional sort of fundamentals of the market, right? The FOMC type stuff that we were just discussing, you might want to get their take on that. There might be some people that are scalpers. There might be some people that are doing swing trading or crypto. You generally aren't going to want a bunch of people all arguing over the same topic, such as, a bunch of crypto bros in a Discord channel all yelling about which direction it's going to go. Now, you want somebody that's shown a track record, shows up every single day, like John was saying, and is an expert in their field, so that you can actually trust them. And ultimately, it comes down to trust. Now, John, again, let's say, one of us are getting out of hand, right? And you are the new CEO here now. How have you managed that in your role here now? How have you managed to make sure you kind of keep us in check and, lay the hammer down?
Well, I think that's the best part about Maven and the team that we have. I don't think we've actually had any of those instances, really. I think we're all humble enough to take advice from each other, and we're all comfortable enough with each other so that we can voice our opinions. We don't feel like we have to be a yes man or a yes woman and agree with everything. I've had disagreements with all of you. You're fully aware of that. You each individually have had disagreements with all of us, and that's what makes this a great team. Because, everyone has a different perspective. And like you said, there is a moderate amount of overlap between our expertise, or maybe a minimal amount, but we each have our own perspective no matter where we're coming from, right? And you want to have that give and take in a team, so that you can get that different perspective from everyone. And I think that by having this board that we have right here, it's a great way to hash out ideas and to come up with educated decisions on which way to go next with the firm and our day-to-day operations.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, Ryan, let's bring you here a little bit. How about How about you give a similar sort of question there? How would you, determine which kind of teammates you would want to play with when you're developing a team here to make sure that you're most productive and in unison?
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely echo everything John just said, and I think I've talked a lot before um, about collective, and I'm super big on that. And so when you have a leadership team that is, each person has their specialty, their niche, so to speak. But when you come together and you are able to um, voice your ideas and roundtable it and have a group discussion, I think that collective thinking is the most one of the most powerful things in running a business that there is. I believe that multiple minds are better than one, and we have that. And so I've been a COO, I've been a CEO, I've been a CFO. For me, it's always surrounding myself with people that have different specialties that I possess. Like, for those that know me, I'm a horrible technology person, and I'm sure Emma's going to laugh, but like I'm very bad at technology, and John's great at it. So we have, like, I think everything covered with our spectrum of leadership, and I think that's what I look for the most is to if I'm surrounding people around me in terms of like a team, it would be to have people that are specialists in things that I'm not good at. And the vice versa, like I'm a specialist in things that some other people might not be good at. So coupled together, that makes a solid team, I guess. And I stress the collective thinking, and I know that the community doesn't see behind the scenes here, but we really go to town on that. I mean, we have so many discussions, behind the scenes on anything that we do at Maven, and it's always very well thought out, strategic, and tested. So that's how I would answer that and kick it back to you.
Right on. Yeah. Easy going. So a lot of people are going to be here and say, hey, well, that's all well and great. You guys have the best team at Maven. How do I do that? And so let's maybe discuss where are some places you might meet these team members, right? Like John and I met in school. Ryan and I met through Ryan. How did we meet? We met
We just been in the industry itself. I think I was in their company, and the two companies started relatively at the same time, and we just started talking. And then through talking to you, I was introduced to John, and John and I have spoken many times. I even came to Maven and Seb and I, and so on. So yeah, I guess kind of met within the industry.
Yeah. So I think it largely comes down to looking for people within your same sort of industry. There might be forums or chat groups, Discord groups that you might be able to find traders with similar like-minded senses, but obviously we need to be looking for somebody with a different specialization that can cover your flaws, right? You don't want to be developing a team that's a bunch of yes men that are following what you're doing and all kind of stroking each other's ego, right, per se. John, any places you can think of or situations you might be able to start developing a new, let's say you wanted to start developing a new team, right? Maybe for development purposes, or a new prop firm, or whatever you want. Come up with a scenario here. Where would you start looking?
Sure. So I mean, the first thing I'd want to do is get involved in wherever there's a community, right? So, like you said, we met in school, but if you're not in school, you could meet someone who has similar interests at work. You could find potential local meetups if you want to see someone face to face, or conferences on whatever topic that you want to base your company or team around. And then, of course, you have online, right? You can go on online forums and just make yourself active in the community. And when you start learning about a topic, or if you can show some sort of some tacit knowledge within that field, and you start showing it to other people, they're going to be interested in communicating with you. It's just naturally going to become like that. and you end up learning about other people through their communication styles. And then of course you can, take the plunge and reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I'm interested in ABC project. I think you're talented in this realm. Would you like to join me, or would you like to discuss it? And that's how I go about it. And I mean, that's exactly what happened with us, right? Seb came to you because you guys were doing a project together and said, hey, why don't we, start up a firm? And then you came to me because we went to school, and then that was it. We just started networking, right? And then that's how the team got together. And that's something that I've learned, time and time again throughout my career, is always networking is so key. I mean, they say it's not what you know, but who you know. I agree to that to some point. You do need to have some knowledge in whatever field that you're aspiring to go in, or at least the intention and motivation to learn about that field. But yeah, who you know is absolutely critically important when you're, when you want to do something big.
Right, guys. Yeah, lovely. Good discussion. So largely it's going to come down to being proactive, making sure you put yourself out there. People aren't just going to fall in your lap, and you need to show your abilities too. If John hadn't shown me that he's a very wise technologist, I would have never connected with him. If he didn't show me that he was reliable, I would have never connected with him. If he didn't show me that he was willing to show up every single day for years on end, right? Again, we would have never connected once again, because it was years between us meeting in school and starting to develop this. So guys, you need to be scouting yourself, and you need to be acting yourself in a manner that other people are going to want to scout you, and then ultimately actively looking for other people. Guys, let's jump back into the coming possible recession discussion. I want to just touch on that a little bit more and then get some questions. Guys, if you have any questions, Emma is reading along on the side there. That's why she's sitting there on mute, and she's going to pop up anything, or she can butt in with any emergency questions. So if you've got really good questions, you might win a $50,000 account from maventrading.com. Okay. So the pending recession, let's discuss possible pending recession. Let's discuss what happened in just the day-to-day, what sort of the things we've seen kind of happen on the snowballing of the last recession there. So let's start with maybe the 2020. John, do you remember any crazy things that you've seen in the 2020 sort of COVID, mini recession?
Crazy things. Yeah, lots of crazy things for sure. The government started acting really weird in the Western hemispheres anyway. Specifically in Canada, I know roughly what happened in the US and the UK. But in Canada, the government decided to absolutely shut down the economy. They basically told everyone to go hide indoors, do not go outside. I shouldn't inject any opinion there. They told people to stay indoors, don't go outside. We will subsidize your wage in most cases, unless you are a critical employee, meaning you work at a grocery store or you're a police officer, fire chief, et cetera, and the government would then pay out your wage. So basically, the money printer went majorly burr. So that's what happened in 2020, and I believe that continued in 2021. I would say that was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, there was a lot of panic for a very small thing, actually. Now, when 2008 happened, I was quite young. I remember it was very, very early age of, getting into GICs and, a couple $1,000s here and there. And I really didn't understand the severity of a real recession. Ryan, that's where I take your aid here. I need your input on the 2008 crash. What led up to it? And, we all know that it was caused by the housing market crash, but, what's sort of the issues and fears here that people have?
I mean, yeah. So I was just knows in full disclosure, I was at JP Morgan in 2008, and I was part of the team that when they bought Stearns, when there was no liquidity and Bear Stearns was shutting down, that was incorporated to unwind structured finance vehicles that were created using derivatives and so on. And so essentially insurance policies bought on mortgages, and when things started to go south, it would be like the equivalent of an insurance company that offers life insurance to everybody. And it would be equivalent to everybody basically passing away on the same day. right? And so then you go in there, and then it's a run on a bank, and there just wasn't enough liquidity to be provided, and so things, they gridlocked, they froze, and it was a really, really ugly time. I remember working like 80, 90 hours a week. I was sleeping in my office in Manhattan at some points. It was very ugly. I don't know that we're at that point right now in terms of the cycle that we're at. I don't really view a liquidity crisis. What my fear is right now is, kind of fast forwarding to current, is something called stagflation, which I don't know if everybody is super familiar with it that's listening or whatever, but stagflation is essentially kind of teed up right now. It's when inflation is going crazy still, yet economic growth is kind of going down, and the employment market is dismal. And so those things coupled together is a very, very bad thing. And stagflation has only happened at different, rare points in history, but it's not a good thing at all. And so I think my only fear right now is that we're kind of teeing up for that. And that's a really ugly scenario when unemployment is high, the economy is weak, yet inflation is still going crazy. It would have similar effects on the landscape that like something like what happened in 2008 when we had the housing crisis and the liquidity crisis. It would have a similar feel. It's just in a different way.
Right. Yeah. So we got a question on the screen here. What were the similarities between 2008 and the COVID recession? And we discussed this very start of the stream here. This is the treasury bonds for the U.S. market, and that's the 10-year over the 2-year. So we're just going to discuss this quickly again. And every single time we have a revert back to the norm, which is after it has been inverted for an extended period of time and then reverted back to zero or positive, right? We see a recession happen, and it happens every single time that it's throughout history. Okay, so that is one concern. That is a similarity. Now the 2020, the COVID recession was barely really a recession. It wasn't really anything. It was more of a stagflation and inflation sort of deal. There wasn't a lot of panic in the streets other than toilet paper and fear mongering. The other thing that's going to be happening here is, once again, the basis point cut has not happened since March of 2020, right? If we're looking back here, we've not seen a single rate cut since 4 years ago. Okay, guys, we've been hiking rates this entire time to reduce inflation, right? And we had some wild inflation happening from the 2020, the COVID crash there, wild inflation. They wanted to reduce inflation, so they started hiking rates. Now the issue now again is once you start dropping those rates after them, they've been so high for so long, you see a massive recession. And in I think it was 91, the 91 crash, they had a 19% inflation rate, and then they cut rates. And it caused a huge problem. Now, if you're looking at the 2008, once again, this is the most similar right now. The scenario we have right now is the most similar to the 2008 crash, okay, where there's a lot of possible lending going on soon, right? Because of the rate cuts. So there's going to be a lot more lending coming out, and then they're going to have to start printing money again, and possibly causing a cataclysm coming up here. So again, guys, not guaranteed issue here, but history has told us that there's going to be a recession coming every single time if these scenarios play out, which they are. And that's what we're going to find out tomorrow. Okay, guys. So next question here, Emma. Why don't we start just going into questions and then answering things from here? Your microphone's not picking up. I think you might have the wrong microphone. So as you figure that out, there's a question on the screen here, guys. Question to Maven Prop from: how confident are you guys in surviving the upcoming recession? Are we worried Now, when there is a recession of this sort of manner, it is a global issue. We are not worried for ourselves. We have, well, especially when you compare to the competition, right? We have an amazing vault and reserves for emergencies. We have an emergency fund. We also have a vault. We can survive a prolonged period of time without any revenue, right? That means if people stopped buying completely, we could still pay out everyone, okay, through the course of their life cycle on the Maven in their challenges and their funded accounts. Now, that being said, it does make it more difficult, of course, but we've done it before and we'll do it again. Emma, did you get Mike working?
No.
Nope. All right. If you're able to pop up some more questions there, you've been reading along, or type them out to me, and I'll read them out here. But we are wrapping up, guys. This is a series we've been doing since the beginning of the year. Emma, just start screaming if maybe.
Well, it's funny because on my side it's picking me up. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
I think you just need to scream.
Yeah, I no idea. It was picking me up on both mics, so I'm not really sure what was happening there. So I got a ton of different teams questions throughout that. So maybe we can kind of like power through some of these and see if we can get them answered quickly.
Real quick.
So one of them is, what team performance metrics do we use to analyze the performance of our team?
John, you want to take that one?
That depends on the department. So, I mean, first of all, that's a fantastic question. Whenever you're talking about a specific department or a specific role, you have to have goals, and you have to have some sort of way to quantify the quality of the work or the goals being achieved. So, I mean, that's a little bit too generic of a question. All I can really say is that it depends on the topic, it depends on the role, on the department. But yeah, KPIs are definitely something that we are concerned with, no matter what the department is. Thank you for the question.
Another question that I saw earlier that was quite interesting was, what's a trait you value in new team members, and does it differ for each department?
Well, I think I said at the beginning, it's being a team player, and those three things: it's non-abrasive attitude, reliability, and predictability. You could be the smartest person in the world, but if you can't get along with others, it's going to make it very difficult to work with that individual.
I think I've got a good situation that really applies to all of the departments. I largely manage a lot of the partners with Maven, sort of the influencer side of things. And when we're looking for an influencer, I'm not looking for the person with the most following and the most clout and the most attention, right? That's generally a bad idea, actually. Usually we're looking at the person that has the most dedication to the project, the person who doesn't post anything that's ridiculous, right, and is very determined and dependable, right? And I think that can apply to all the departments. It's just a very obvious scenario when we're picking partners for the team, right? I've turned down people with tons of followers just because the way that they were able to acquire those followers was not in line with the values of Maven.
So I have another one up on screen right now, which is, what are some of the strategies to improve collaboration among team members?
Sure. So first of all, I can just give you a little bit of rundown of what we do behind the scenes, or myself specifically, with all of the C-suites and the top staff of the, all the directors. I have a one-on-one weekly check-in. That means I'll have a one-on-one individual meeting with each person, whether it be Hunter, Ryan, Seb, Emma, and we can discuss anything in those meetings. We discuss, their department, but we also discuss anything else that could be potentially bothering them, or any areas where they could see success. So I think that, communication is super key. Then we have a weekly team meeting where we all discuss together, a monthly company meeting where we get everyone in the company all together, and everyone is able to discuss whatever they want. Once we get through the meeting minutes, basically, get through the main topics, there's always a very long question period where anyone can ask whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important things that any leader in any doesn't matter what department they're in is make sure that the people that are working with you have mental buy-in. Make sure that they see value in what it is that they're doing. So don't give people dead-end jobs. Always make sure that there is something that they could strive for. Everyone wants to grow. We're humans, right? We all want to grow. It doesn't matter what we're doing, but achieving success, your own personal KPI, is huge in the way that it's huge in the quality of work that you're going to produce. If you know that there's a reward for yourself that, hey, I've accomplished something to be proud of, you're going to work that much harder and you're going to be that much more motivated. So it's super important to make sure that everyone has that.
Yeah, and that kind of stems into the next things I was going to ask about, because people are asking a lot about engagement. And I think you kind of just answered that with the fact that, people can see themselves personally growing and personally achieving within Maven. People are also asking about engagement because we work online and digitally, and we don't have a physical presence, and if we think that's impacted at all.
To be quite honest with you, I've been working outside of offices since 2016, and I've done both. I've worked in offices and outside of offices. I think that I'm so accustomed, and I think that we all are, but after doing this for a couple of years, working outside of an office, you find ways to communicate with people remotely. I mean, we use a bevy of tools, right, to communicate beyond just face-to-face meetings. We have tools that track our tasks. We make sure that everything's being done, all the tasks that we say are going to do from our department on these massive project boards where we can collaborate and communicate with each other. And I think that you could, for myself, I know that I can be more productive working outside of an office. I believe that anyone can be effective working outside of an office once they train themselves to work in that manner. We can have a meeting whenever we want, just like we can in an office, except for our meeting would be happening here on video.
John, the great thing I'm going to add to this is working remotely allows you to work 24/7. Basically, if you're working in an office, it sounds silly, but if I ever have an idea, I pull out my phone, I go on our board, I type out all our ideas, and I ping everyone, right?
Yeah.
And then we have discussions going constantly, rather than I have to go into the office to actually sit at my computer and do the work there, right? I always have access to my ideas this way, right? So It never stops when you're remote. But if you are a 9-to-5 worker and that's all you want to do, then sure, the office, fine, I think, but not for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to add to that, sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
It's okay, you go for
I
it.
want to put this in here, is that all of us right now, we're all in different cities with the exception of two of us. And Seb is also in a different city. So the fact that we work remotely, and I mean, to even expand upon that, a lot of the people that work at Maven beyond our core director team are in different cities as well. So we get the ability to choose the best candidates from all over the world to join our team. Whereas, if we were to have a physical office, either a bunch of us would have to, concede and move to a different city, or we would have a very limited employment pool that we can look for employees. So I think that that's a massive advantage that cannot be understated. Anyways, sorry, go ahead, Emma.
I agree. I think it's kind of like a pot of talent, right? We're able to find the best of the best for each individual position.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just going to add to Hunter's point, because he was talking about the ability to work 24/7, but also working from home, you have the ability to set boundaries. I have more recently worked in office spaces in comparison to you two, and all of you, I think. And in an office space, you'll often have people come up to you at any point, at any time, even when you're in the middle of your focus time. And it's very, very difficult to be productive when you have that happening constantly. So with a work from home situation and you're working digitally and remotely, you have the ability to put up those boundaries to make sure you have your time to focus, but then also have your time to collaborate with others.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, Emma, do you want to do one more quick question?
Yeah, sure. So someone was asking how important it is to have a common vision and goal within an organization in regard to teamwork and how a team all works together.
John, you want to take it?
Sure. I think it's critical. You have to have, the overarching vision and mission should be something that's shared across all the staff of any company, right? You want to have high cohesion but low coupling when you're talking between departments. This is actually also something that's critical in software development. You want to have high cohesion across all of your modules, but low coupling, meaning that every department has their own autonomy. But at the end of the day, the cohesion comes from the mission and the vision.
Great, guys. Let's wrap that up here. Beautiful discussion. Hopefully we can navigate the markets going forward, and hopefully we can build a team that will make it even easier for us in the future. So hopefully you guys have learned something. If you have, spam up the chat and say thank you to John. He will not be joining us next week. He's a very powerful resource that we really enjoy having here occasionally. Guys, we do this every 9:30 a.m. PST. If that's not your time zone, you might want to calculate it to figure out what time this is actually at, because I'm not going to calculate it for you. Guys, we have a $50,000 giveaway at the end of every single spaces. Emma is going to pick who has won based off of the questions given. Emma, do you want to just tell them how you're going to choose?
Yep. I'll just be tagging the person in our YouTube chat. So I've got it queued up and I will be tagging you.
All right, guys. Next week, we're going to be discussing backtesting, creating data sets so that you can improve your trading. And the following week after that, we are going to get Louise back on and discuss the psychology. Guys, she was really great to have a couple weeks ago. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Should have ended.